In the 5th year of his marriage to Ethan, he took the newly adopted canary to his friend's birthday party. No one found it strange, they only felt that Ethan had finally come to his senses, possessing a fortune worth hundreds of millions and handsome looks, no longer having to be alone with me in this life. I hurriedly went with the birthday gift I prepared for Ethan. When I arrived, I only heard Ethan holding Mia's hand, introducing her to them. "What are you standing there for? Call her sister-in-law." I pushed the door open directly, wanting to divorce him. He panicked, drove the girl away on the spot, and begged me for reconciliation. The girl took her own life in sorrow that night, and he blamed everything on me. "If it weren't for you threatening me with divorce, I wouldn't have separated from Mia." I was tormented to death by him, and when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at his friend's birthday party. I didn't push the door open, gripping the gift bag tightly in my hand. The door wasn't closed properly, and I could see Ethan holding the girl's slender waist, one hand gripping her chin, kissing her passionately and tenderly. He kissed her, full of possessiveness, his eyes filled with emotion. The girl blushed, like a fawn, and nestled into Ethan's arms. His brothers were making a fuss around him. "Ethan, you should have figured it out by now. With your worth of over 100 million, good looks, and money, why stick with Jenna for a lifetime? It's just that, for 5 years, she's been the only woman. We brothers feel it's not worth it for you." Ethan hugged the girl and took a big gulp of his drink. He glanced at the watch on his wrist, clearly a bit distracted. The agreed time had already passed, and Jenna still hadn't arrived. He clearly said to let her prepare the gift and that she mustn't be late. Zhang Yuan patted his shoulder and advised, "Women need to realize their situation early. Jenna has been spoiled by you. She's trying to take advantage of you tonight. You need to have some backbone and not go and appease her again. Let her learn a lesson from this." Ethan was clearly moved by these words. His gaze tightened, as if he had made a certain resolution. "I will make her see the reality. Your gift, doubled." Zhang Yuan smiled, putting his arm around his shoulder as they walked inside. They walked, everyone drank, and cut the cake. The crowd erupted again, noisy and chaotic. Standing outside the door, I silently turned around and threw the handbag into the nearby trash can. I contacted the best divorce lawyer in Haicheng. She gave me a lot of advice. I want to divorce Ethan, and I won't settle for a penny less than what I deserve. Things were almost finalized, and when I got home, I found Ethan sitting on the sofa. He didn't come back last night. There are faint marks on his neck. Those are the traces of mingling with another woman. He couldn't even be bothered to cover them up. "Where did you go?" He spoke, his throat dry. If it were before, I would have hurried to have Luma brew a cup of loquat tea. Now, even a glance at him feels excessive. I still clearly remember the feeling of his fists and feet heavily striking me in my past life. He confined me to a room, with no food or water, and in the end, I was so thin that I was almost just skin and bones. I died in humiliation amidst pain and thirst. Heaven allowed me to live again, and those who humiliated me should be punished. I steadied my mind, suppressing the urge to slap him, put down the bag in my hand, and said, "I went shopping with a friend." Ethan's face was pale, and with a serious expression, he pressed, "Why didn't you go to the birthday party last night? You stood me up, and it made me look bad." This was what he really wanted to ask. Fortunately, I was prepared. "Last night, my mother-in-law called me over and said she had told you." Hearing this, Ethan's expression finally softened. He leaned back on the sofa, tiredly closed his eyes, and raised his hand to pinch the bridge of his nose. "Maybe I said it, I forgot, my head hurts so much." He was signaling for me to come over and give him a massage. After all, my massage skills have even earned praise from my usually picky father-in-law. I catered to his family in everything, determined to be a good wife. He was also sincere to his friends. Yesterday, for Zhang Yuan's birthday gift, I had someone order a watch from abroad 3 months in advance. In the end, I had to endure such humiliation. Jenna is already dead, and I will no longer be blinded. I went upstairs. You let Luma make a bowl of hangover soup for me to drink. Now I won't serve you anymore. It serves you right. As I passed by Ethan, the corner of my eye caught his incredible expression. I didn't expect that Jenna, who had always listened to him and treated him like a treasure of the world, would finally stop being a sycophant. My position in the company is second only to Ethan. After the divorce, I definitely can't work here anymore. I need to organize my work in advance to make the handover easier. The secretary called and said Ethan wanted me to come to the office. Mr. Chung. He raised his head and laughed in anger. There was no one else here. When no one is around, I would call him husband. But now, these two words are stuck in my throat, and I can't bring myself to say them. He waved his hand for me to come over, but I pretended not to see. Are you feeling down lately? He asked with concern. I'm not feeling down, it's just that when I see you, everything feels off. He smiled knowingly, spread his hands and said, I have to go on a business trip to the port city for a week. Since you're not feeling well, you don't need to go this time. Every year, we go to the port city together, visiting old friends of my in-laws and also leveraging connections to participate in business associations. This kind of husband and wife duo is the most popular in the circle. The husband sings while the wife follows has always been praiseworthy. If I don't go, then who will? His newly raised canary Mia? Ethan can take over his father-in-law's position, allowing the business to seek steady progress, and many reasons benefit from the trust in his steadiness. Once he's exposed, he'll be like other wayward sons, keeping a mistress outside. I wonder how much trust will remain then. I'm already looking forward to it. Alright, I'll pack your bags tonight. After leaving the office, I had my secretary check who went to the harbor city with Ethan. Sure enough, it was Mia. However, she had taken on a different identity. The president's assistant. Ethan really is getting bolder. Ethan knew it was my period and consciously went to the study. Even if he came to the master bedroom, I would still kick him out. During the day, I had someone fix the surveillance in the study. Right now, he can't hold back and is chatting passionately with someone in the study. I'll pick you up early tomorrow, and I'll take you to have a good time in the harbor city. We have a week, and during this time I am only yours. My dear, go to sleep now, rest well, because once we get to the harbor city, I won't let you sleep. I turned off my phone, and a layer of goosebumps rose on my arms. They thought that once they went to the harbor city, no one would recognize them, and they could do as they pleased. What a dream. I had a friend in the entertainment industry find a paparazzo. Their affair's photos will become piece-by-piece evidence. The next morning, Ethan rushed out with his luggage, without even having time to eat. I stood at the door to see him off, just like before, obediently. Don't worry, take good care of yourself while I'm away these few days. He gave me a light hug, extremely perfunctory, and then left without looking back. I couldn't help but think back to the past. Every time I sent him off, he would always cling to me for kisses, leaving even the driver and Luma unable to look. It turns out that his estrangement had long been traceable. It was just that in my previous life, I was too foolish to see his changes clearly. I still thought he was the man who vowed to love and protect me for a lifetime. Nothing can be relied upon, the only one I can depend on is myself. The paparazzi are very professional, sending photos every day. The two people who went to the harbor city have clearly let their true nature shine, showing off their love everywhere. They went to Disney, shared an ice cream, and rode the Ferris wheel. Ethan didn't hold back on buying designer bags, clothes, and jewelry, making Mia smile widely every day. Ethan, who was only focused on indulging his little lover, didn't even realize he had caused trouble. It wasn't until my father-in-law called that I found out how outrageous their antics were. Jenna, why didn't you go to the harbor city with Ethan? That kid is up to no good, and you're just indulging him? I started to act innocent, stammering and unable to say anything. Liang Lao is a respectable man, and his greatest regret in life is the early death of his son. No matter how confused Ethan is, he shouldn't have given a fishing rod as a gift. Old Liang's son was an accident that happened while fishing at sea. This is a well-known fact, and no one would take the initiative to touch the bad luck. I secretly felt pleased. In the past, I was solely responsible for preparing gifts, and Ethan truly had no idea about the twists and turns involved. Offending old Liang nowadays has likely ruined most of the business over in the harbor city. Dad, I'm sorry. Ethan didn't let me go to the harbor city because he saw that I haven't been feeling well lately. I humbly apologize. The more I speak on Ethan's behalf, the more my father-in-law will think I am understanding. Sigh, I will handle this matter. Jenna, your father has always valued you. You need to thoroughly clean up the people around Ethan to avoid a disaster. When my father-in-law initially chose me to be his daughter-in-law, a significant part of his decision was based on my work abilities. To marry a wife, one must choose wisely. He believes that only a woman who can manage Ethan in both career and life is worthy of the title of Mrs. Ching. In my previous life, I did the same thing. Ethan knew that his father only acknowledged me as his daughter-in-law, which is why he turned to seek reconciliation when I mentioned divorce. At that moment, he must have already hated me in his heart. Today, my father-in-law's words undoubtedly confirm that he also knows about Ethan's affair. He won't take action on such dirty business. Neither will I. I need to wait for the right moment to strike decisively so that he can never rise again. Ethan returned 2 days early. Our two offices are separated by just a wall. So the scolding over there and the girls' aggrieved sobs ran into my ears without missing a single note. Assistant Gao, the coffee today is quite good, I said with a smile. Assistant Gao looked puzzled. This coffee was clearly the same as before, with no difference at all. I want all the information on Assistant Ching, and I need it quickly. Assistant Gao placed everything he found on my desk half an hour later. This girl was not hired through the recruitment process, she was a parachute candidate handpicked by Ethan, and there isn't much information about her in the company's records. But one must not underestimate the capabilities of Assistant Gao. She used her connections to uncover everything that Mia had deliberately tried to hide. After graduating from university, Mia spent 2 years navigating the film industry, later working as an escort, where she met many wealthy men and thrived by relying on them. She got involved with an older foreign man, spent a year abroad, and was dumped. Upon returning to her home country, she claimed to be a returnee socialite, promoting a pure and innocent persona. Hearing this made my head spin. Ethan and his gang of friends, thinking they had experienced everything in the world, never expected to be played themselves in the end. I wonder what they will think after learning the truth. Keep it a secret for now. With such a big piece of leverage in my hands, I need to think carefully about how to use it. Ethan invited me to dinner. I don't know if it's guilt from his infidelity or if he thinks I have some value to him. In the middle of the meal, he suddenly took out a gift for me. The blue velvet box opened, and the blue gem sparkled brilliantly under the light. The final auction item at the Port City auction was sold for 10 million. It turned out to be Ethan's work. This wasteful thing. Do you like it? My daze made him mistake it for surprise. I nodded and accepted it with a smile. He obviously sighed in relief, took out the necklace, and walked behind me. I'll help you put it on. From the first moment I saw it, I felt it suited you very well. Thank you, my husband, for thinking of me even while on a business trip to the harbor city. Ethan's subordinate froze for a moment. The cold touch pressed against my bare neck, and I couldn't help but shiver slightly. He looked at me and smiled. This time when we went to the port city, old Liang asked me about you. He misses you a lot. I nodded and silently ate the food on my plate. I guessed correctly. He must have a request of me. I know you have a good relationship with Liang Lao's wife. There was a bit of a mistake during the visit this time, and Dad wants to hand over the work there to my second uncle's family. You know, my second uncle said he couldn't go with me. I touched the heavy sapphire necklace against my chest. Even the jewelry, shrouded in the complexities of human relationships, would lose its luster. The Qing family's business has never been entrusted to just one person. The grandfather has always been shrewd, knowing how to distribute the rights of the family enterprise to create a system of checks and balances among them. In the past, I always put Ethan first in everything. Now, stepping away from Mrs. Cheng's identity, this is undoubtedly a great opportunity for me to benefit. I smiled and nodded at him, saying, "Sure, I'll go to the port city in the next couple of days. Aunt Leon loves the osmanthus tea from here." Ethan's smile spread across his face as he raised his glass with me. The look in his eyes revealed a sense of attachment. When we were at our best, just like all young couples, we stuck together all day long. His phone rang at that moment. He glanced at it, his brows slightly furrowed. After turning it off, the call came in again. "Go ahead, it might be something important." My understanding nature gave him a way out. "I'll go out to take a call and be back soon." He got up and went outside. By the time he returned, I had almost finished my meal. He said anxiously, "Jenna, you go back first. There's an urgent matter at the company, and I need to hurry back to handle it. I'll come back as soon as I'm done." I nodded with a smile, "Go ahead." He turned and ran away as if granted a reprieve. Looking at his back, the smile at the corner of my lips gradually froze. "Go to hell, jerk." Mia added me on her small account. She posted a whole set of jewelry in her circle of friends, using pink diamonds. The one I love most deserves the most expensive jewelry forever. Those who don't know might think it's an advertisement for some jewelry brand. The scent of money is too strong. I can even imagine Ethan giving me a sapphire necklace, and Mia's jealous expression. It's truly ridiculous to measure someone's love for you in such a way. Later, she sent a few more photos of herself in sexy bunny girl pajamas. The hand resting outside the blanket on the bed, I recognized at a glance as Ethan's. There is a scar on the back of his hand, which he got in our first year of marriage when he scratched himself to protect me while we were climbing a mountain. He used to like me too. Even if it was a family marriage, even if it was a transaction weighing pros and cons, after meeting Ethan, I even felt lucky. But this kind of affection only lasted a simple 5 years. Even without Mia, there will be Katie. His betrayal is just a matter of time. Everything that follows the rules and lives a mundane life will make him weary. After all, the one who understands him the most is his father-in-law, which is why he married me to take care of him. I liked Mia's post on Moments, with a backhand gesture. "That set of pink diamonds is indeed beautiful." Then take a screenshot of their bed and save it. This way, there are more chips for the divorce. I had assistant gal book a flight to Hong Kong City, leaving early tomorrow morning. Go take over Liang Lao's business. My plane lands at noon. I opened my phone and saw more than a dozen missed calls and countless unread messages. Ethan couldn't find me and was anxious. I patiently explained the reason to him. He replied, "Wife, you've worked hard. You are the one who can truly help me." I feel that he spoke from the heart. Mia, no matter how many tricks she has, is just a thing that spends money to show off. In Ethan's heart, I am still practical. A must-have good for a cozy home. What he doesn't understand is that I would be better off without him. He is not a necessity for me. I have been living in the port city for over a week. The things that needed to be done have already been completed. What Ethan didn't know was that Mr. Liang was not only an important business partner of the Ching family, but also that Mrs. Liang was a cousin of my mother. With this familial connection, we naturally became even closer. Ethan recklessly brought Mia to the door, and Mr. and Mrs. Liang saw through the scheme at a glance. By the time I returned, they had already thought of an escape route for me. "Jenna, now that your parents are abroad, you have to make this decision for yourself. Ethan has made some progress in recent years, but that kid really is a bit clueless. If you were truly unwell, he would definitely call us himself. It's not impossible to come another time. Don't think we can't see through his little schemes. Uncle, it's not worth getting angry and harming your health. I've already been thinking about it." Aunt Leong patted the back of my hand and comforted me, saying, "And your father-in-law, he's too greedy. The business here doesn't have to be done by someone from the Ching family." I have left someone here, and in the future, I hope you two will help out more. Good fortune should not flow to outsiders. This business is still best left for me to handle. I placed assistant Gao over here. With her work ability, she can handle these tasks with ease. After I returned, Ethan was much more enthusiastic towards me than before. He sent me roses and various snacks I liked in different styles. All of this made his precious heart turn red with jealousy. What are you doing in my office? Mia sneaked into my office, and I followed her in. She was holding a coffee, standing in front of my computer. I came to bring coffee to Jenna. This unscrupulous thing wants to ruin my computer. There are important files in the computer, and I need them for the meeting this afternoon. I don't like the coffee you made. She had an abnormal smile at the corner of her mouth, and her hand was indeed about to loosen. I pushed her away. What are you doing? Ethan's low growl sounded from behind. I held the computer, looking at Mia, who was slumped on the ground with an innocent expression. Only then did I realize I had been fooled. President Chang, it's my fault, the coffee I made didn't catch Jenna's eye, I won't do it again. Speaking of which, seeing that tear held in her eyes, as if it might fall but doesn't, pitifully tugging at a man's heart. She is young and doesn't understand, can't you just talk to her nicely? Ethan scolded me while bending down to help her up. She can act too, and with a twist of her foot, she fell into his arms. What's wrong with your foot? It's nothing, I'll go out first. Mia took a step forward and shed a tear. Ethan couldn't take it anymore and directly picked her up. What are you being so stubborn for? You're in so much pain and still refusing to admit it. I'll take you to the hospital. Ethan said as he held her and strode away. Mia leaned on his shoulder, giving me a victorious smile. I just want a divorce, but Mia is making such a fuss. She was the one who provoked me first, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Gao Tushu's business in the harbor city was gradually getting on track, and it was time to liven things up for the Ching family. I had the paparazzi expose intimate photos of Ethan and Mia, and later there was a video of the two of them going to a hotel together. From every angle, I have solid evidence. Once the news was released, it went viral and made the headlines. Mia is the one who can act, now it's my turn. The first thing I did when I got to the company was to cause a scene with Ethan. I stormed into his office and slapped him across the face. Ethan was completely stunned. Still, the assistant Xiaobai rushed over and stood in front of him. Are you crazy? Why are you hitting Ethan like this? If you want to blame someone, blame me instead. Her fragile little expression, on the verge of breaking, is of no use to me at all. I grabbed her collar with one hand and pulled her in front of me. If you hadn't said anything, I almost forgot about you. Another round of slaps. She cried out in protest, her face flushed red. Ethan hugged me and lifted me off the ground. I kicked him several times with the heels of my high heels. He muttered, "Don't make a fuss, I'll explain it to you when we get back." Get back? How could that make this matter known to everyone? I won't listen, you bastard. For 5 years of marrying you, I've been working like a dog in the company, while you play around with other women. How can you face me? Are you even human? He just wouldn't let me leave the office. The paparazzi's revelations, combined with the scene I caused, have firmly nailed the already confirmed cheating scandal. Public opinion has overwhelmingly turned in my favor. Ethan and Mia are being criticized mercilessly. Moreover, those who had interacted with Mia, both the real and fake young masters, began to spill the beans. The situation was like a burst rice bag, spiraling out of control, and it topped the trending searches. The company's stock was steadily declining. It was so bad that the shareholders couldn't sit still, running to the company every few days. At the last moment, my father-in-law called, asking us to come back for a visit. Ethan knelt on the ground, and the elder summoned the family law, striking his back with a wet rattan whip, making him cry out in pain. The grandfather was tired from the beating and sat down to rest in the armchair. Do you know you were wrong? Ethan's voice was trembling. I know I was wrong. Is there a solution? The father-in-law glared, scaring Ethan into quickly continuing. I have already contacted public relations about this matter. Let's first get the trending topic removed and then discuss. We, the Ching family, must maintain a united front and say that someone used AI to swap faces, maliciously slandering our peers. Ethan looked up at me and said, we need to hold a press conference. Jenna, you have to attend and clarify things for me in person. I clenched my fists. It was truly shameless. Do I look very stupid? Clearly, I am the victim. Why should I gloss over his actions? The old man saw my emotions and said, we are all family. At a time like this, let's not quibble over trivial matters. It's still important for both families to do business together. The old man called us back, ostensibly to teach Ethan a lesson, but in reality, it was to find a way to make up for his son. They really are a family, breathing from the same nostril. I scoffed coldly in my heart. Soon, the business of the Jian family will no longer need your Gu family. What about that woman? How do you plan to deal with her? When my father-in-law asked this, he deliberately glanced at me. She had already explained to me that those people, for some unknown reason, were deliberately slandering her. She is a good girl. The old man smashed the teacup on his head and roared, damn it, I wasn't asking you this. Ethan gritted his teeth and looked at me, as if I were the real culprit behind all this. I will cut ties with her and never see her again. The press conference was arranged quickly. I walked in alongside Ethan, and the reporters instantly swarmed us. Ethan shielded me behind him and said politely, please ask one at a time, and I will answer seriously. Are those photos really AI generated? As far as we know, Mia is indeed President Chang's assistant. How did she get into the company? Ethan, you and your wife have been married for 5 years. Is it true, as the rumors suggest, that it is merely a business marriage? How is your relationship? Ethan focused on answering the reporter's questions. Finally, someone saw me. Mrs. Jenna, if your husband really cheated, would you file for divorce? Ethan also heard it and suddenly tightened his grip on my hand. He spoke before I could. This will never happen, I am being framed, I will never betray my wife. He is truly an acting emperor, even watching a dog evokes deep feelings. The reporter was still relentlessly pursuing, and she held the microphone up to my mouth. Mrs. Jenna, please answer, if it's true, would you get a divorce? Ethan was clearly a bit embarrassed and angry, exchanging glances with the security personnel beside him. I took the microphone and said seriously, yes, if my husband cheats, I will divorce him without hesitation. A look of panic appeared on Ethan's face, and the palm holding my hand was covered with a thin layer of sweat. Ha, guilty conscience. After this incident, my relationship with Ethan was close to freezing point. He tried to ease the tension between us, but I simply didn't go home and stayed in an apartment next to the company. In the evening, he vented to his friend in the study. It's really damn annoying, getting beaten up and then being criticized by my wife. His group of friends comforted him, chattering away. Oh, hasn't it already passed? How could Jenna bear to divorce you? She's just upset. After a while, won't she come back obediently? Eat when you should eat, drink when you should drink, a man should enjoy life. Which man isn't a bit of a rogue? If you really become a good family man, we would all look down on you. Mia is still waiting for you with tears in her eyes. I'll throw a party later, and everyone can get together. I knew he couldn't stand the loneliness. They are throwing a party, and I just happened to have a great gift to bring. While my in-laws and my second uncle's family were heading to the seaside villa for a barbecue, Ethan was passionately kissing Mia, who was wearing a swimsuit. Now, even if Mia dies, it won't all fall on me, right? With something like this happening, even if she doesn't die, the Chung family won't let her off. Nonsense, the old man had great strength, and with a slap, he knocked Ethan to the ground, causing his cheek to swell instantly. Mia stood frozen in place, trembling uncontrollably. She had probably never encountered the aura of someone who had long been in power, so it was only natural for her to be frightened. Uncle Air mocked, Ethan, it's not that I'm criticizing you, but marrying a good wife like Jenna and still fooling around outside, you really don't know how to appreciate your blessings. And AI face swapping, I can't believe you thought of that. Big brother, if I had known earlier, you should have let Jenna marry my son. Ethan's eyes were blazing with anger. He looked at me, but I was too busy covering my face and crying on my mother-in-law's shoulder to pay him any attention. Fortunately, I acted well, otherwise, I really couldn't hold back my laughter. How did you end up here? Ethan questioned. He must have sensed that something was off. Aunt Air rolled her eyes dramatically. Have you forgotten what day it is today? Our Ching family made our fortune here, and we gather for a meal every year on this day. I think you're just out of your mind, forgetting even your own surname. Ethan slumped on the ground, his face ashen. I directly caused a scene and proposed a divorce. Ethan was the first to stand up in opposition. The Ching family also disagreed. Wife, this time it's my fault. I swear I will cut ties with her completely. I just made a small mistake that all men make. This time I met her, it was actually to say goodbye, but she suddenly threw herself at me, and I was taken aback. I will only love you from now on, can you give me one more chance? Ethan held my hand, speaking with such heartfelt sincerity. I have already given you a chance. I pushed his hand away, refusing to be his last lifeline. Our marriage is tied to the Ching family's stocks, and it also affects his status within the Ching family. Although the father-in-law has only one son, Ethan, in the face of family interests, he would be the kind of person who sacrifices the small for the big. Ethan is well aware of this, so he will not let me go no matter what. We still have a lifetime to be together, you don't need to hold on to this point. I promise I won't see her again in the future, what I promised you, I will follow through. I shot him a glance and said firmly, I want a divorce. You, Ethan, were at a loss for words. We were at a standstill when the public finally spoke up. I will transfer 3% of my stocks to Jenna, you have been wronged in this matter. Uncle Air's family all changed their expressions. They were still hoping to get rid of Ethan this time, so that the second branch's power could rise another level. In the end, the old man still couldn't bear to part with me, this prized possession. I neither refused nor agreed. This kind of situation is still advantageous for me. If I simply refuse, who knows what unexpected events might occur. I must be fully prepared. Divorce is not a trivial matter, you are both adults and should understand that. Let's leave it at this for now, and you both go back and think it over carefully. My father-in-law is hinting at me. Our family's business with the Ching family cannot be overlooked. Ethan was taken back by his in-laws for some education. As they were leaving, my mother-in-law held my hand and said earnestly, men love to play, he will be fine when he grows up. You truly love Ethan, and we are getting old, so we hope that you younger ones can support the family. But he is trampling on my love. If you had a daughter and she suffered such humiliation, would you still say such things? Grandma looked a bit flustered, she had never seen me like this. Whoever gets hit by the stick feels the pain, and besides, I was just speaking the truth. They are all thinking about me, and it's not far from turning the tables. My parents flew back to the country on the same day they received my call. I will not face injustice alone like I did in my past life. This time I will unite all forces to fight for everything I deserve. When discussing the divorce, I brought my lawyer and parents. In addition, the Liang couple also flew in from the port city to act as intermediaries. At first, Ethan was still stubborn, insisting that he was being seduced. It wasn't until my lawyer presented the intimate photos of him and Mia that he fell silent. Later, I also provided the steamy bed photos that Mia had sent me herself. Furthermore, there were the surveillance videos of their conversations in the study. Finally, there is a list of jewelry and bags that he bought for Mia using our joint assets during this time. It solidifies the fact that he cheated during our marriage. Ethan's face was ashen, his lips devoid of any color. He looked at me, smiling bitterly. So you knew all along? Jenna, when did you become so deep-minded? I gave him a glare. If I don't keep a few more wits about me, won't your family just eat me up? I demand an inventory of Ethan's assets, the half that belongs to me, not a penny less. My dowry and personal belongings must all be taken away. Remember to have Mia repay the money she has spent of mine during this time. Ethan jumped up like a mad dog, barking, Jenna, this was all your design, right? You married me for my money from the start, I should have seen the reality sooner. If you want a divorce, then your family's business can forget about it too. If you're not afraid of dying, go ahead and leave. My father clasped his fingers together in front of his chest and tilted his head to glance at the Leon couple. You don't need to worry about this. Now, I just want to hurry up and divorce Jenna, even looking at you makes me feel sick. Ethan's face turned red, then pale, then green, and he could no longer speak. Uncle Cheng's family looked as if they were unwilling to show it on their faces. Elder brother, why don't you say something? Last time we managed to smooth things over, so think of a way again this time. You just gave that girl from the Jian family 3% of the shares. The Cheng family has other ideas now. I can only deliver the final blow to him. Father Cheng's eyes were tightly closed, as if he had made a great decision. All right, let's do it as you said. He understood that last time, just sending a few photos and videos had dragged the company's stock down like that. If he sent everything he had, everything in front of him would become uncertain. He couldn't afford to gamble, and the Cheng family couldn't afford to gamble either. Jenna, Ethan called out to me. I left without looking back. There is still a 1-month cooling-off period before the divorce, during which I have entrusted an accounting firm and a lawyer to help me divide the marital assets. I can finally take a break for myself. My mom, worried that I might have negative thoughts, had my cousin tie me up and put me on a plane. The great mountains and rivers of my homeland deserve to be seen properly. In the past, there was no time, and I devoted myself entirely to the company. Looking back, I really missed a lot. Fortunately, in this life, I haven't lost anything. A month later, my cousin and I returned. We had tanned and lost weight, our eyes bright and full of energy. Dao Taizhu followed me to switch jobs and directly took on a major role in the harbor city, getting promoted more than once. But she still likes to report to me, sharing both big and small matters along with gossip. Mia is pregnant, but the Cheng family does not want to accept it. Ethan's attitude towards her has turned 180 degrees, and he wants to cut ties with her. She doesn't know who incited her, but she actually sought out the media to publicly reveal her affair with Ethan. She shaped herself into an innocent girl who knows nothing of the world, willing to be with Ethan for love without seeking a title. To be fair, there are indeed people who stand up for her way of doing things. Later, the Cheng family generously allowed her to get engaged to Ethan. But it wasn't long before someone dug up her past as an escort, and when she went crazy in front of the media, the Cheng family locked her up. She is now in a state of semi-house arrest, locked in the villa all day long, not to mention going out. She might not even be able to leave her room. The punishment that was inflicted on me in my past life has now fallen upon Mia. The Cheng family has 100 ways to keep a child from being born. Perhaps the child in her womb doesn't even have a chance to be born. I feel a deep sense of emotion, yet I believe that everything has its cause and effect, and in the end, it is self-inflicted. I arranged to meet Ethan at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 in the morning. When I arrived, he was already waiting there. In just a month, he had really lost a lot of weight, his clothes hung loosely on him, and his face had changed. Meeting again was a bit awkward, like familiar strangers. 5 years ago, we obtained our marriage certificate here. When Ethan said this, his eyes turned red, his voice trembled, and his hands were awkwardly unsure of where to go. Let's go. I feel rather calm and entered the office ahead of him. The marriage certificate has turned into a divorce certificate, and I really don't want to come to this place again. Do you regret marrying me? A bitter smile appeared on Ethan's face. I smiled, as if I were talking about someone else's affairs. It's all in the past, I just want to live well. Ethan's eyes flickered, as if he had thought of something. My cousin drove the car over and parked it right by the roadside. I opened the door and got in without a moment's hesitation. In the rearview mirror, Ethan inexplicably ran a couple of steps forward after the car, until his figure became too small to see. My life will be completely separated from him. Goodbye, never to see you again. Ethan went to the seaside villa. As soon as he arrived downstairs, he heard a dull thud of objects falling to the ground in the room. Mia had gone crazy again. The doctor said she was suffering from depression, had extreme behaviors, and might commit suicide. She had done the same, cutting her wrists, jumping from buildings, screaming day and night. So, he had all the items in the room that could cause harm removed. Ethan, do you not want me anymore? You can't leave me, I'm carrying your child. If you dare to go, I'll show you what death looks like. The sharp voice pierced Ethan's eardrum. He has been having the same dream lately. In the dream, he is with Mia and is caught right in front of Jenna. She quarreled with him. He immediately sought peace. Mia, however, committed suicide. He placed all the blame on Jenna, imprisoning her and torturing her to death. Later, he learned that Mia had depression. She was blackmailed by her ex-boyfriend and took sleeping pills in despair, which had nothing to do with Jenna. He didn't know whether the images that kept appearing in his mind were real or not. He just felt his heart was like being cut by a knife, never resting for a moment. He has already had someone investigate Mia's background. A woman on the fringes, a gold digger, clinging to wealthy men, spending their money, and transforming into a socialite. He was deceived. For such a woman, he betrayed his wife of 5 years who had shared hardships with him. In the end, he lost everything. The board members will not agree to someone with a tainted reputation holding a key position. The company has already suffered enough from public scrutiny. The power has fallen into the hands of the second uncle. Nowadays, he can't even enter the company gate. He can only wander outside, like a lonely ghost. When he was doing well, he had friends all around him. In his desolation, not only is no one concerned, but there are also times when people step on him. Standing outside the venue of the cocktail party, watching the bright lights and flowing wine inside, he couldn't help but think of the best years with Jenna. The two of them had galloped through the business world, unstoppable. She had her eyes only on him, doing so much behind his back. Even though their union was a marriage of convenience, the foundation of love was already thin, but 5 years of companionship had allowed those feelings to grow wildly. He could not live without her. She had unknowingly settled into his heart. Now that he sees his heart clearly, it is somewhat laughable. He mistook fish eyes for pearls, ending up with a dismal outcome. If he could start over, he would open his eyes, stay away from wine and meet friends, and love only her for a lifetime. Suddenly, the window on the second floor was smashed open by something. A heavy object fell from the sky. It was a stool. Ethan stared up blankly, unable to dodge, and it hit him squarely in the face. That night, Mia gave birth prematurely and suffered severe bleeding. She didn't make it to the hospital. The child was taken for a DNA test on the first day after birth. Unfortunately, it was not Ethan's. The child couldn't last 3 days. The Ching family does not allow such a stain to exist. Ethan survived, but he was crushed into a high-level paraplegic state. Currently, his attitude towards rehabilitation treatment is very negative, and he is afraid he will have to lie in bed for the rest of his life. After Ethan's accident, his parents only came to see him once. They left with eyes full of disappointment. The bond of family was weak. For a family like theirs, this had long been the norm. Ethan's spirits were getting worse. He kept thinking about the past. When he had just married Jenna, in the early morning, she sat in front of the vanity, like a delicate rose in the garden covered in dew, using a peachwood comb to slowly brush her long hair. Upon discovering that he was peeking, a shy expression appeared on her face, and she turned around with a sweet smile. It seemed that only in her dreams would she smile at him. Since that's the case, let him sleep forever. Only by remaining in the night can he see her smile.